Salutations, everyone. This is Razor here with podcast 2.5, I would say. This is an addendum to the last one, in which we did talk about politics, and yes, I lost some subscribers, as I fully expected to do so. So if you don't want to hear any of this, that's understandable. It's not why you come here, but I felt compelled to have a follow-up based off of the results, the mildly surprising results of the reaction. Who's to blame, quote unquote, what's gonna happen, what can happen, what can be optimistic about, and what do we have to be careful for, and what do we do in the future, whether it's 2 years from now or 4 years from now. So Donald Trump won the election. Hillary won the popular vote, but Donald Trump, of course, won the Electoral College vote. And this isn't the first time this has happened. It's not the first time this century that it's happened. It happened to Gore. I believe it happened to Nixon. It happened to Jackson. And if you think that, it's going to change because they fucked up. No, because Democrats are spineless people, and they didn't complain when Al Gore lost the election in 2000, even though he won the popular vote. Hell, even Donald Trump is against the Electoral College and the popular vote. Well, I'm sure now he's all for it. But if you remember 4 short years ago when Mitt Romney ran against Obama, Trump thought that Romney won the popular vote, and he tweeted that the phony Electoral College made a laughingstock out of our nation. The loser won. He lost the popular vote by a lot and won the election. We should have a revolution in this country. I'm sure he's singing a different tune now. Although I think Trump is a part of the rest of the collective, I think he is also surprised that he won. And I think the reason we don't know what his policies are, we don't know what he truly thinks, which made him different from Hillary, and many people voted for him because of they know Hillary is the establishment. She's on the straight and narrow. We're going to just keep the straight course that Obama has set for us. And people aren't happy with the way that the nation is for one reason or another, which is why Republicans and Democrats always change power. With some rare exceptions, such as Bush coming after Reagan, it's almost always flip-flop, because people are never satisfied, and they think that this party will get it done. Okay, well, this party will get it done. Okay, well, the other party will get it done this time. They always flip-flop because no one's ever satisfied with the way things are for many years at a time. So yeah, the Electoral College is fucked. People are talking about the petition for the Electoral College to vote for Hillary because the Electoral College hasn't voted yet. That happens in December. So people are petitioning for them to vote in Hillary instead and go against the vote, vote, which it would be unprecedented. It would absolutely, it is undemocratic, even if it would give us a better outcome. The people have spoken. People are saying, not my president. Well, guess what? He is going to be your president, and there's nothing you can do about it. You had your say, or at least, the half of the nation that votes, slightly over half of the population of America voted. So the people who didn't don't have much room to stand on, no matter whom they voted for. If you voted, you did what you could. If you didn't vote, then you're part of the blame. But that's always been the case. America's never had a great voter turnout for many reasons, but it's mostly is on the people because we have, absentee balloting. We have, the mail-in votes. But that's not going to happen in December. The Electoral College isn't going to do that. We've had, in the past 50 years, I believe, only 2 times has an Electoral College member not voted for their party. One time, one of the members voted for Reagan. Another time, a member from Washington, D.C. abstained from voting because, Washington, D.C. doesn't get a say. So it would be very unprecedented, and it's not going to happen. Let's be real. There's very little we can do. We cannot abolish the Electoral College because in order to get rid of the Electoral College, we would have to get members of the Electoral College to agree to relinquish their power. And as we know, people in power don't like to give up their power. We can change the way that it works. Many states, I think all of them are democratic states, are petitioning for a change in their state to have the electoral votes from their state go to whoever won the popular vote, regardless of who won in their state. I believe there's 8 states that are looking to do this. There's only 2 states that split their vote and then have it proportional to the popular vote within that state. And that is definitely more democratic. The Electoral College is broken. We've known that for a long time. There are some people who have different reasons on why we should get rid of it or keep it. Alexander Hamilton said that the Electoral College is there to stop us from electing a terrible person, that it's a safeguard, much like the superdelegates are nowadays for another election that was gone the wrong way. So let's talk before we get into the Trump presidency. A lot of people are trying to throw around blame as if that would help. But hey, let's talk about it. Who is to blame? In reverse order, we're going to go with the media. The media is to blame because they said, "Oh, we have all these polls saying Hillary is going to win." Well, first of all, only most of the polls said that. For as early as January, we've had at least one or more polls saying that Trump would win. And the media is very biased. People such as Trump said that this election was rigged. It was rigged. It was rigged. And yet he won. So I don't think he'll be saying that as much anymore. But I mean, he is right. The election is a little bit rigged in many different aspects. But the media is to blame for much of that. Mostly not because of this election. Though the election wasn't won or lost on Tuesday. It was won or lost long before that. Not many people changed their mind or made up their mind in the final week of the election. Statistics prove that, and when you actually talk to people, which the mainstream media does not do, the corporate media who only care about money, which is why they were all for Clinton, because they would keep the money flowing to them. They would get positions of power and influence because, they're helping her, so she'll help them. Everybody loves money. That's what corporate media is about. And that's why many people are distrusting of the mainstream media, and why in this election and how everybody was stunned that Trump won and that Hillary lost. It's because they didn't do their jobs. Yes, they're left-leaning. But Fox News is also broken. They're all broken. No one should get their news from television anymore. It doesn't work that way. At least on news shows, we've seen many different, a lot of different data from people who would watch The Daily Show or the Colbert Report, back when those were on. Those viewers were much more educated in the political process than anyone who watched CNN or Fox News or MSNBC or NBC or ABC or whatever, wherever other news outlets may be. Because those people are smarter, they tend to be younger, and the sources of the knowledge, the people on Colbert or Jon Stewart's show or other shows, including comedy shows and some that are not as much comedic. Those people are not biased. They are not part of the corporate media, and they kind of tell it how it is. Yes, with a satirical spin on it sometimes, and other times just insightfully so, as we see on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. So mainstream media is absolutely broken. They thought Hillary had this in the bag, and they laughed at anybody who said different. They thought, oh, Trump doesn't have a chance. And they were pulling for Hillary since the beginning, and they threw away the one shot that the Democratic Party had at beating Donald Trump, and that was pitting him against Bernie Sanders, who we know would have beaten Donald Trump. All of the polls which, I mean, that's the only information that we have, even though many of them were wrong when it came to the final election night. All of those polls, by the way, were within the margin of error. Every poll had Hillary barely winning, to an extent, or Trump barely winning. But when it came to Bernie, when these polls were done in January, when they were done in March, May, June, and last week, Bernie always beat Donald Trump, and by a lot. The last poll that took place the day before the election, Bernie Sanders would have beaten Donald Trump by 12 points. 12 points. That's a landslide. That is not within the margin of error. It is absolutely without a single doubt. Nobody can say this without deserving to be laughed at, that Bernie wouldn't beat Trump. He would have destroyed him. We knew this a long time ago, and the mainstream media helped Hillary win, and they gave Trump all of the limelight. And there was just so many scandals that they couldn't keep up with it all to the point where people became desensitized about it. So the mainstream media is absolutely to blame. But next up, we have the DNC and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Well, let's focus on the DNC and Obama for now. The DNC were totally skewed for Hillary. If Bernie would have ran against Trump, he would have won. He would have made actual change in this country, whereas Hillary was the establishment. And the DNC thought, yes, this is the direction we need to go. We need to go with the most establishment politician of all time. And now we see Hillary. She is the biggest failed politician ever. Just think about the facts. She lost against a black man with a Muslim name in 2008. She lost everything stacked in her favor. She still lost that fight. She almost lost against an elderly Jewish socialist, and she lost to a reality TV star who used to own a beauty pageant. That's a resume of failure. She has been successful in absolutely nothing as the most failed politician of all time, but they thought this is the way to go because all my friends tell me, everyone who lives in New York and Washington, D.C., we all agree Hillary's going to win. We don't have evidence to back that up, but we all like her, so we all think that she's going to win. So that's what we're going to keep reporting. Nobody believed, even with the data, that Bernie would have done better against Trump or that Trump had a chance at beating Hillary. That they just wouldn't believe it, and the DNC didn't believe it. They put all their chips on their establishment character, who wouldn't run on issues. It was all about, just keep things going the way they are. And with that, we have to also put a lot of blame on Barack Obama. He's part of the reason, maybe not the main reason, but a large contributing factor to the reason that Trump won on Tuesday. And that was because his failed presidency. He didn't do the things that he promised that he would do when he was elected or when he was reelected. Obamacare, some people can see it as a step forward. Well, it wasn't as big as a step forward as it could have been. And presidents and people in office are always concerned about their legacy. What's my legacy? What am I going to be remembered for? Well, Obama, you're going to be remembered for nothing because Donald Trump kicked you out and is going to repeal Obamacare on day one. He's going to rip up the Iran trade deal. He'll pass the TPP, though, much like you're trying to right now. So people we're sick of Obama. His approval rating isn't fantastic. And if he would have had a better administration, showed that he was progressive, do something, then the country would have seen no reason to go the other way. So he and his administration are a large part to blame. And then we have the American people. Mostly the people that didn't vote, which was almost half the entire nation. It goes to show, statistically, 3/4 of the country could have liked one candidate over the other, and the other candidate still could have won because half the country didn't vote. Now, some people say, oh, I don't have time. Oh, I hate politics. Oh, I don't pay attention. It's important. You should pay attention. It doesn't take that much time. You don't even have to vote on Tuesday. And we saw a decline in black voters. We saw a decline in young millennials. We saw an increase in older millennials and millennials as a whole, but their share of the vote decreased. And we saw a decrease in independents going for Hillary because they know what a shill she is, what a failure she is, and how she isn't progressive. And some of them went to Donald Trump because they knew what they were going to get with Hillary, and they wanted change, any kind of change at all. And Trump was the only one of the two running on a platform of, I will do something different. Hillary was all about, I'm just going to keep things going the way that they are, and I'm going to, help my corporate backers, and I'm going to, help them out and bail out the banks and go with corporations. I did work for Walmart for a while. After all, I'm all about you guys. I'm all about giving people favors and keeping money in politics, which is one of the main reasons why the DNC fails, why the mainstream media gives us garbage, is because of money in politics. And the only politician in American history to run for president on a platform of getting money out of politics was Bernie Sanders. And the DNC and the media made sure that he was not going to be the nominee. And he would have done better with Democrats. He would have done better with independents, and he would have done better with Republicans. He did better in almost every single category. Not every category, but he would have done better in almost every single category. We saw Trump win because of the white vote. Hillary wins every single demographic except for white men and white women. Of all income and all demographics, geological distributions, Trump won all of the white people. Race does have a part of this. It's not the main reason. Sexism does have a part of this. It's not the main reason. But we have many men and women who don't believe women should be in power, which is ridiculous. We have many people who believe that only white people should be in power. And that's part of the implicit platform that Trump was running on. He didn't have many things. Build the wall, repeal Obamacare. Oh, crooked Hillary, who's going to go in jail. He had very few talking points. And the media thrived on that because he had all these scandals, which was juicy and, good for their ratings and their sponsors. But they wanted Hillary because that way she can, give them positions and keep money in politics and, keep their bank accounts flush. So, but racism and sexism definitely played a huge part. We saw one anchor call this a white lash against the Obama presidency and America, because Trump was going to make America great again, presupposing that at a time it was great. And, we have to deport Mexicans, we got to get rid of the Muslims, and he's saying all these things about women and black people and things that he's done to further emphasize how he feels about certain groups of people. It was about, being pro-white. And that's what people like to hear. Like, let's go back to when America was great. Back when white people had 100% of the power. Back to we owned all the land and we owned people. Things were great back then. Because things don't seem so great now because their jobs are getting taken, or they're seeing more things that are uncomfortable for them, that are outside of their norm, things that they know and understand. Because if you don't understand something, if you're afraid of it, then you're gonna hate it. That's where that comes from. So race did have a lot to do with this election. It wasn't the main factor. It wasn't the contributing factor. Neither was sexism, but they were all factors. So the American people showed that with Trump came an emboldened sense of, he's saying the things that I feel, the things that I say, but don't openly go out and say. But now that there's this dude that's so popular and saying, that Mexicans are rapists and, they're crooks and they're bringing crime into this country, and, the disappearing power of the white people and their entitlement. People are saying, yeah, you know what? I think that too. So now they're emboldened to go out to the street. If you look at any, and I mean any, Trump rally, you saw these people that were not cherry picked, that were saying, oh yeah, slaves, yeah, they had a great time. They had a great time. Slavery was great for them. It was fantastic. And, oh yeah, women shouldn't be in power. Both men and women saying this, by the way, for many, many different ludicrous reasons. These weren't cherry-picked people. These are the people that supported Trump. They came out of the woodwork. A lot of people were surprised. Why didn't the polls show this was going to happen? Well, because there were shameful people that wanted to go for Trump, but, there's all this push for equality and love and acceptance and happiness, and they know that that's the way that the world is moving, so they don't feel comfortable speaking out and spewing their racism and their sexism and their homophobia and their xenophobia. They felt that, most people don't think this way, so I'm not going to say that I'm such a terrible person. But when the anonymity of a ballot, is available to them, they're like, all right, here's my opportunity to show that I'm just biggest piece of shit as Trump is. Not to say that everybody who voted for Trump was racist or sexist or part of the Klan, but people who are racist and sexist did vote for Trump. He got all those votes. You can't really say to the contrary. You can't when you have a presidential nominee backed by the KKK. That's ludicrous, and he won. So it goes to show how many of these people are out there in America. How many people think that blacks are terrible, that women are terrible, that Muslims should all be killed or banned from the country, and we have to, get rid of all the Mexicans and build a wall, as if that's going to do anything, which of course Trump is going to backpedal, as every politician such as Obama goes, we're going to make all these promises, and then when we get elected, we're not going to keep those promises because we just wanted to get elected. And Trump is no stranger to that rule as well. He ain't going to build a wall. He's going to backpedal. He's going to still sign the TPP and all these other terrible trade deals for America and international deals, but he's going to say that, oh, I changed it, that now it's a better deal. Believe me. He always tells us to believe him. No one respects women more than I do. Believe me. Oh, well, if it's coming from Trump, then it's got to be true. He says he's telling the truth, therefore we have to believe him. Much like how the Bible says that everything in the Bible is true. So, we have to believe it because it says to believe it. And that's also one of the weird things about this election, which you can glean maybe some positivity from, is that it was the only presidential election, where religion wasn't part of it. Who knows what Trump actually believes in? We know he's not super into practicing. Maybe he's even a better candidate than Ted Cruz because he had some really crazy shit that he thought and believes and has been doing in his political career. And all you have to do, look no further than Mike Pence, somebody who doesn't believe that women should be in charge of their own reproductive system and believes in conversion therapy. Pray the gay away. He believes in that, and he's going to be our vice president. And for the first time in a debate, nobody asked, how does religion inform your decision making? Because there's all these scandals, and that was almost all the questions and airtime in the media being focused on. And the very few things that were about policies, that wasn't a contributing factor because neither candidate was super religious. They both lie about their religiosity to get the votes because, most people in the country do cater towards a major religion, the one in Christianity. But it wasn't a factor for the first time ever. And that's really, really weird. And you saw, the most religious group, the right, go for a candidate who probably doesn't even believe in that stuff. He believes in money And he didn't even, I don't think he even wanted to be president. He just wanted to win. He just wanted to win. He wants to be a winner. He wants to prove people wrong. And when we've already seen somebody from his team say that we're keeping a list of enemies, and people who doubted him or went against him will bow down to him. Now, if that doesn't make you think fascism, then I am sorry, we can't help you in this conversation. But, okay, so let's look forward to, what can happen. The number one blame, by the way, is, of course, Hillary Clinton, the most establishment politician of all time, who said that she didn't care about the independents. When asked, are you going to adopt any of Bernie's stances, to get his voters? And she said, look, I got way more votes than him. That was her defense. She said, I don't need the independents. I got more votes than him. Guess what, Hillary? If you had the independents, you would have won this election. This was a close election. You won the popular vote, but in states like Michigan, which Bernie beat her in, by the way, she lost by, is it 0.3%? Bernie wouldn't have won Michigan. It wouldn't have been close. He would have won the swing states that she lost for just so many reasons. People know she's a career politician. All she cares about is herself. She's untrustworthy. Everybody knows that, and that helped people either not vote for her or vote for Trump instead. The third-party candidates didn't factor into this election. People are going to be looking for a scapegoat, much like they did the Green Party with Al Gore. It's all your fault, Nader. Well, if Nader wasn't in the race, Bush would have won by more. And if we take Gary Johnson and Jill Stein out of the equation, they aren't a factor in her loss. She lost this by herself. The DNC lost this election by themselves. For the first time in American history, the consensus machine died. Everyone was pulling for one candidate. We saw all these unprecedented, this paper or this station has never endorsed a president before. And everything was overwhelmingly in her favor. For good reason, because the alternative is Trump. But everything was going in her favor, and everybody thought, she's going to win by a landslide. This is, like the biggest political upset in American history, or at least modern American history. Maybe there's something else that isn't coming to mind because I'm stupid. But it was a big blow. People, there were, even as early as the night before the election, there was one poll that had Hillary as a 98.3% favorite, which is ridiculous. The highest that we would see for Donald on any of these polls was a 35.3% favorability, chance of winning the election. And of course, we saw that increase to 40, 50, 52, 58, and then he won. So, good job, Hillary. You ran on no policies. You were all about, I'm just going to keep doing what Obama's doing. You guys love that, right? I'm going to keep the banks happy. I'm going to keep the rich rich. And I'm not going to change anything. And Trump was like, I'm going to do something. And people were like, hey, something's better than nothing. That might not be the case, but let's take a look at what we have. Now, a lot of people are worried about the Trump presidency, and there are many things that we know are going to happen. He's going to become president. The Electoral College thing, that's not going to happen. Maybe there's an attempt on his life before he takes office. But that still remains unlikely. I think more likely before he takes office than after, and I think a higher chance for him than if somebody else won, or, many of the previous elections of the past, 20, 30 years. A lot of people don't want him to be president, but guess what? He's better than Mike Pence, because this is an absolute insane asylum case. He's Ted Cruz levels of crazy, and he's not a better solution than Trump. But with this, we saw Donald Trump do almost an unprecedented thing. He almost destroyed the Republican Party. He almost did it by himself, because they didn't want him to win. They didn't want him to win. And then he won. They're like, fuck, we have to back this guy. I don't yet. Or I kind of do. Or I do now, and now I don't. And now he's the president. Or going to be. He's the president-elect. And now, not only do they have a Republican president, but they have the House and the Senate. and at least one Supreme Court selection. So now we have one party in charge of absolutely everything. And that's the most dangerous part, because that gives Trump more power, and that gives the House Republicans more power to, make more crazy fucking laws, more backwards ass shit, back to when America was great again, like the 1950s when everything was hunky-dory for everybody that wasn't white. The times. So there's going to be a lot of crazy shit that they're going to try to do. He says day one he's going to rip up Obamacare. Now, Obamacare was flawed. It wasn't perfect, but it was a step in the right direction. It had some good things in it. It had some terrible things in it. And it was progressively getting worse. But all of that is going to be washed away, and Obama's going to have no legacy whatsoever, and just going to be looked as somebody as a failure, because here comes Trump, kicks him out of office. The guy who was going on him against at a birth certificate and all that nonsense. And now we saw that awkward handshake where Obama's like, this guy has my job now, where I made a joke about him at the White House dinner, just 4 years ago or 6 years ago. I forget when it was. And, that's really awkward for him. And we have the first black president being preceded by a reality TV star who is endorsed by the KKK. Quite the difference there. This is the first job that Trump has ever applied for in his entire life. Everything else has been given to him. He was born into money and has just been losing it ever since then, and stealing people's money and then continued to lose it. So that's what we have now. And he's also, never served in any of the armed forces. So yeah, he's the only person to not be elected to any elected office or serve in any branch of the military. So he's going to be our first president with that distinction, and the only one who ever had to go for one job, and that is to be president. So that is what's going to happen. It is scary for the minorities, the LGBT community. We've already seen some people take their own lives because of this. We've seen people take to the streets, which, we're all disappointed. We're all a little surprised, and we're all scared about what can happen. But let's look at what will happen. He says that he's going to build a wall. He's not going to build a wall. Maybe a fence extension, which wouldn't sound as good as a slogan. And the Senate and the House are going to be able to repeal Obamacare. He says he's going to rip up the Iran deal. So maybe we're looking at a war with Iran, which is a much, much greater enemy than Iraq could ever be, because then we're facing a nuclear-armed state as opposed to a few factionless terrorist groups. He says, we're just going to bomb ISIS, as if Obama hasn't used all of the bombs that America has, as if that's a solution. He's like, I'm going to have the generals give me a 30-day plan to get rid of ISIS, like it's something that you can do. That's something that Obama hasn't tried to do by using all the bombs that our army has. And he's going to do it bigly. He's going to do it better because he's great at negotiating and whatever. And, I know the best people and I know the best words. So that's what he says he's going to do. Obamacare, that's gone. No question about it. That's going to happen. He's probably going to rip up the Iran trade deal. Things are going to be very heated with all of our relations. And then there's Russia and China that we have to worry about, what kind of cahoots are going to be going on there, and what possibilities he has at provoking leaders and stuff like that. But a lot of it's a mystery because we don't really know what he wants. And unfortunately, we know what kind of a person he is, and we know that the House and the Senate are going to be using his position as a Republican president to their advantage to do all the things that they want to do. And he's going to, of course, cool, help out my banker friends and all that bullshit. I'm going to, give them more tax breaks, much like myself. I'm sure they hate, paying any of their billions and trillions of dollars. So I'm going to help them out because they're my friends. And, they give me money and they give my friends money and I'm friends with them. Just like Hillary Clinton, she's part of that same sect, that same group. So with let's say the first year, maybe it's the first year and a half nothing terrible is going to happen. And people are going to be like, huh, what were we so worried about? Well, he hasn't had time, and the rest of the House and the Senate hasn't had time to really do a lot of damage. After the first 6 months or year or so is when we have to start getting worried, and when he and the rest of his party are going to start being held accountable for their actions and or inactions, because it's America. We have elections every year. There are always seats up for grabs, and maybe things will start moving in a different direction when people see that Trump's doing either nothing or a terrible job. So we can see possibly, very feasibly, the worst 4 years of recent American history, or we can see 4 years where only a few bad things happen, because yes, there are checks and balances, but and the president isn't the strongest of those three branches of government, but he is nonetheless the most powerful man in the world. And that itself is scary. And the kind of rhetoric that he uses and everything he's been running on emboldens the rest of the xenophobes and the racists and the sexist people in our country. Being like, yeah, it's Trump time now, baby. Build a wall and scream it at Mexicans at their primary schools to make them cry, and then beat people up because they're gay and say, you're in Trump's America now. They have this this backing that says, hey, he's the president. We're in power now. The hateful, the white, we have the power, and everyone's behind us because he's the president. Therefore, we're the majority. We have the power. So they feel emboldened to oppress every minority group. And we've already seen that happen in primary schools, middle schools, high schools, colleges, and we're on the streets, in bars that we've seen. If you followed the Kumail Nanjiani and Thomas Middleditch story from a couple days ago, that stuff is already happening, and it's only going to get worse. And yeah, it's a little scary. It's not the worst case scenario. And it is good that we don't have a neocon like Clinton, who might do more damage when it comes to a global conflict or something of that magnitude. But nonetheless, these are not going to be 4 good years for America. And we can only hope that the damage will be sustained, that it will be very small and diminished, that he won't be able to do the things that he wants to do, that the two other houses of government won't be able to do the things that they do, and that something terrible like Citizens United doesn't go through the Supreme Court and gives the people less power and the rich and mighty more power, and oppressing women and their right to their own body and the rights for lesbian, gays, transgenders, and bisexuals to live their lives as they should be able to as free Americans. So we really don't know. We are left in the dark. There is only so many bad things that can happen, but what can happen can be very bad. So yeah, Clinton would have been bad. Trump is worse. Maybe Cruz would have been worse, or somebody else. The people that we see that are becoming part of his cabinet: Rudy Giuliani, Newt Gingrich, Chris Christie. The person that's going to be head of the EPA is a climate change denier. That's some backwards ass shit that's going to be happening to this nation. And many people are scared, and rightfully so. We've seen people, I've seen tweets of young Muslim women saying that my mother, the most religious person in our family, is telling me not to wear the hijab because of the prosecution that the bigots have been emboldened now to deal out, because they feel like they're in power again. They have the backing of the government and the president, and that is scary. That is scary that people don't feel safe in this country, and things are probably not going to be the worst case scenario, but there are going to be some rough times ahead. Sorry I did go longer than I had anticipated, but this is something unexpected in many people's eyes. but nonetheless important to talk about. So, yeah, he can only do so much. That we can be thankful for. I think we should be more afraid of the House and the Senate, but maybe Trump can keep them in check, and we can only hope for the best. Like Sam Harris said, it's like America is a plane, and the pilot died. We had a couple people stand up that said, I'll fly the plane. We had somebody with experience. There's somebody who stood up that's crashed a plane before, and there's somebody who's never flown a plane before. And somehow he got to the cockpit. We just have to hope that he's successful. Because if mistakes are made, then we all pay. So let's hope that Trump does a good job. Let's hope that we land safely 4 years from now.